Hello everyone. Today I wanted to discuss this book, 15 Judgments Cases That Shaped India's Financial Landscape by Saurabh Kirpal. And this is a hardbound edition. And so, what is this book about? It's basically about the financial history of India, of independent India, from 1947 till basically 2020. And it discusses basically 15 landmark judgments of the Supreme Court which has shaped our macroeconomy. And why I'm choosing to discuss this book? Because, first of all, this is about a financial legal history book, which is a rare thing in India. It is discussed keeping in mind the lay audience of India. So, you will not find much technical terms here. It's told in a very intriguing way by Saurabh Kirpalji. He is a senior advocate in Supreme Court, so he knows what he's talking about, and he's done this in a very, very nice way. I think 15 judgments, starting from this 1951, when Constitution of India first got enforced, and it ends in 2020, basically when the latest Bitcoin judgment came, and it basically broadly covers the all aspects, I think, of a macroeconomy. So I've written some notes. Don't get distracted by these. These are for my personal use. But so I will quickly just go through the index only, because the structure of this book is slightly different, and there are no diagrams or anything, so I don't need to show you the entire book. The contents I will just brief you. So the first is the purloined constitution. I didn't know what it meant. Purloined. My English is not so good. So purloined, it means stolen. Because in 1951, as soon as the constitution came into practice, the right to property, which was a fundamental right, it was challenged, and it had to be delegated to a legal right, slightly inferior right. So this was the first blow, you can say, to the Indian economy. And again, why this book is important, I think, because oftentimes in discussions, or even in newspapers, or common parlance, these discussions about whether India could have grown at a much faster rate is either due to purely being slightly socialistic in its early years, and or now it should completely adopt capitalist position and just start growing rapidly. But this book, I think, it was a new reckoning, you could say, for me, because oftentimes, and this angle I didn't know before, because oftentimes it's the political economy, not just an economic model, that shapes the economic destinies of countries. So particularly in India, the Supreme Court judgments, these judgments and many others, but these 15 landmark judgments, they also have a large role in shaping the economic destiny of India. So just for an example, let's say this judgment regarding the government tenders, this came out in 1994. So I mean, it's really very fascinating to imagine if the Supreme Court had given some other judgment, or maybe this judgment could have been given sooner, because in India, judgments take a lot of time to be delivered. And or even this Vishaka guidelines case about women's security. This came out in 1997, but strict laws about women's safety, especially at the workplace, they are still lacking. I think it culminated, the effect of this judgment culminated in 2013 with a strong act. But even now, very little has changed. This is my personal opinion. Things have improved, obviously. There are judgments then, but if anyone is watching Indian news in September 2024, I think they know what I'm referring to here. So to me, this still remains one of the biggest reasons regarding the hindering of the economic growth of India. 50% of you can say India's population is composed of women, and if the state and the people both can't guarantee a safe workplace, then obviously the economic growth will be affected. So yeah, let's leave that topic for some other day. I will just go through the chapters one by one very quickly. First one was about this the right to property, from where everything begins. Then second was about the bank nationalization. So you get the bank sector here also being impacted by the Supreme Court judgments, whether it should be nationalized or not. And then third is about the workers, the laborers, and how the term industry was to be defined. This was the major discussion point in this case. This issue still hasn't been resolved, I think, because proper labor rights and worker rights is still not a resolved issue, despite the 4 labor laws being codified. I think they still need enforcement. So yeah, this issue is still unresolved. And then the next one is about the shareholders, the majority versus minority shareholders. Can majority simply overrule everything the minority shareholders posit? And so yeah, this case was about this. The next was about takeovers. This was a very interesting case, and this personality, Saurabh Paul ji, very clever fellow, I must say. You must read this case. It was very new for me. 1986, LIC versus Escorts. And so this, and then there is the government tenders case, Tata Cellular, 1994, and about whether this case basically legalized this concept of tendering by the government of India. So whether it's good, bad, or it still lacks some oversight, you have to read to decide. Then this Vishaka Guidelines case, 1997, the tragedy of Bhanwari Devi ji, and this struggle still goes on in India, sadly. And I'm very happy that this case was discussed here, because for some reason I was not expecting this. It's very good, and because this is a financial, cases that shaped India's financial landscape. And this judgment right in the middle, chapter 7, it shows the importance of the women workforce in India's financial landscape. And the next case is about the privatization in India. Then whose gas is it anyway? I think now I got the pun. Whose line is it anyway? I think. Okay. This is about Reliance versus Reliance. I think everyone knows the 2 biggest businessmen of India. I mean, discounting Tata Motors, but Mukesh Bhai and so this is about Mukesh Ambani and his brother. And the question here was that the oil resources of India, to whom do they belong? To this set of companies by Anil Ambani, or this group, or someone else? Let's just leave it at that. Chapter 9, whose gas is it anyway? It's a very good chapter. Chapter 10 is about the only certainties in life, death and taxes. It is about retrospective taxation in India. So can you impose tax before a certain date, and then companies have to pay all the accumulated tax according to some arbitrary calculation? So is it good for India's economic health? Because new firms will obviously, foreign or even Indian firms, they will think twice about investing and setting up industries here, because arbitrary taxation is never good for any firm. So this case was about this. And then this was about the 2G case. It was a huge case in India, in India's political history also. This 2G case is very relevant. And it was about auctioning of the spectrum, the telecom spectrum, and whether the judgment here was correct or not. This is very eye opening, I think. Um, yeah. So the next case, the about the externalities, you can say, of any economic activity: man versus wild, industry and the environment. So in this very interesting, I think very few people must have known that mining in Goa had a sort of infinite lease when it was ruled by the Portuguese, and it continued till after independent India. And this judgment, you can see, it came out in 2014. So they have been enjoying infinite time period leases to mine. You can imagine the impact, because Goa is on the coast, and the biodiversity and everything, including people's health. These all are externalities, and the costs are not added to either the firm's performance or the economic parameters like GDP. The next one is the price of privacy, the Aadhaar judgment. Here, I think the right to privacy was recognized as a fundamental right. This is also a landmark judgment. And then chapter 14, insolvency and bankruptcy. This is also about whether when a company or a individual defaults on his or her loan, so how to recover, and whose stake or whose claim should be preferred, whether it be financial creditors or operational creditors. These are legal terms, but the author has made it very, very simple to understand. I mean, it seems tough, but there is nothing to it. There is a firm, there is a company. It requires some raw materials and some capital, some money. So anyone who loans the company some money, he will be considered. It will be considered financial creditor, and any raw material or any service will be considered as operational creditor. So whose claim will come first if the company goes bankrupt and the company has to be liquidated? So this case was regarding this, the Swiss ribbons case. It's a landmark case in this field, insolvency case. And then the final case was about the Bitcoin, because these cryptocurrencies at that time in 2020, they were undermining the authority of the central bank, the RBI in this case. So this case was about regarding this. And so these are the 15, you can say, judgments, and almost every field of a macroeconomy has been covered, from currency to insolvency to privacy, environment, the telecom sector, taxation, natural resources, how governments give out tenders, the rights of the workers, the shareholders, the management, and women, and also nationalization. So almost all fields of a macroeconomy have been covered, major judgments. And this book is actually only some 200 to 250 pages, I think. Only 200 maybe. Yeah, 250 pages long. So it's very simply explained. And I'm just going to show you the 9th chapter just for the structure. So how the author has written each chapter is that he will first discuss the background in a few pages. So this case was regarding the Mukesh Ambani versus his brother, regarding the natural resource oil. To whom does it belong? So this is the background. Then a slight background about how Reliance, the company, the conglomerate, started. What was the dispute, right? And then what was the battle in the court, how it unfolded, and what was the judgment. So you can see just in 4 small pages he has covered almost everything that one needs to know. And then finally the conclusion, what we have learned from this judgment, what was its impact, ongoing status. And then finally he also has presented the notes for each chapter right after the chapter ends. So this also is a very, I think, useful technique, I think. So the case ends and then you move on to the next chapter. So this is the book that I wanted to discuss. And I hope you all read it and discuss it, share with your friends. And thank you. Happy reading.